Thank you very much. With this, I would like to yield the floor to Mr. Sudipto Dey.
Let me introduce the panel members first. Mr. Prabhu Chawla, of course he doesn't need much of an introduction because he's pretty well known. He's editorial director of New Indian Express. He's a Padma Bhushan awardee and a popular figure in the mainstream media, and has been the editorial director of India Today Group of Publications, Political Course of India. In the past, he's hosted many popular talk shows like Siri Baat on Aaj Tak and Tiki Baat on IIM 7. Our next panel member is Mr. Rakesh Nangia. Mr. Nangia is the managing partner of Nangia and Company. Is one of the leading tax advisory firms. He is the president of Indo-Canadian Business Chamber and chairman of the International Tax Council of ASSOCHAM. He has been rated as one of the best tax controversy leaders in India by International Tax Review. I move on to the next panel member, which is Mr. Professor Bhanumurthy. Professor Bhanumurthy is...
That's a part, because it's an interesting, serious discussion on budget, because as a journalist, though by teaching, by education, I can call myself an economist, because I did my post-graduation from the Institute of Economics. And among the teachers were Professor Amartya Sen, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Jagdish Bhagavati. I can name many people who were at that time teaching us. If there are some faults in me, don't blame Dr. Manmohan Singh, because I can speak louder than him. Amartya Sen is the lefty, Jagdish Bhagavati is the righty. I don't know which teacher I should follow. So as a journalist, we are supposed to follow the middle path. That okay, Amartya Sen is also right, Bhagavati is also right. I don't know how many people have heard interviews given by Jagdish Bhagavati and Professor Amartya Sen on demonetization. Can you raise your hand? Both of anybody has seen the interviews? How many? Just raise. 4. It means nobody is interested in the budget. That speaks about the interest in the budget, because I wanted to ask this question. Because how many people have read the budget papers in life or heard about the budget discussion? How many people have heard any debate, serious debate on the budget? Raise your hands. Not less than 40, maybe 30% people are there. That proves my point. That budget is irrelevant. So why do you expect anything from the budget? Budget is meant only for politicians. Sorry to say, people who represent the pink journalists, like Business Standard, Economic Times, Financial Express. I was the editor-in-chief of Financial Express and CEO as well. The budget is basically meant for some people, not for everybody else. It is meant for the classes, not for the masses. Budget is just an exercise. It is sometimes you see, okay, तो लोग शराब नहीं पीते, कहते हैं एक बार शराब पी लो नशा चढ़ जाएगा थोड़ी देर के लिए. So the budget comes every year on 28th of February so that people who don't drink, they start drinking and they forget about that. एक टेम्परेरी पैक पी लेते हैं, उसके बाद नशा चढ़ता है, भाषण देते हैं, उसके बाद भूल जाते हैं बजट में क्या हुआ. When I'm giving a subject like what do you expect from the budget, what do I say? I don't expect anything in the budget because I'm 70 years old. I've seen 70 budgets. I didn't see anything new in any budget. So this is going to be almost 66 regular budget. You have presented 65 budgets, including internal budgets also, in the last since independence. What difference does it make to my life? It doesn't, except that 2% income tax बढ़ जाएगा, 400 रुपए देने पड़ेंगे extra. Excise duty कहीं कम हो जाएगी, कुछ नहीं होगा. जैसे आप लोगों को पता ही नहीं excise बढ़ती है कि नहीं. तो asking this question, कि budget, what do you expect from the budget, is something which I can't digest. But it's a reality, so I have to speak about it. I don't expect anything from the budget. If it's not presented, it doesn't make a difference to my life. If it's presented, it doesn't make a difference to my life, except I will get a very fat Business Standard and Economic Times at home next day. Instead of 32 pages, I'll get 56 pages because they will print the entire budget there. But still there is a hope. Budget at least gives you some kind of a direction in which the government is moving. Budget expectations from politicians. For example, all the politicians in the sitting in the opposition are telling the President of India, who was the finance minister in 2012, don't allow Mr. Arun Jaitley to present his third budget. It means budget is meant only for politicians. Because this budget, he may announce, okay, I'll give free this, free that, and that will get the vote, which doesn't happen actually. The people who are voting sitting in somewhere in Bahraich or somewhere in the village, they are not interested in what the budget does for them. It is only the upper middle class or whatever else who want to buy in the stock market, they will do something kind of thing, otherwise not interested. The budget is only an exercise to present the balance sheet of the country. Okay, we will earn this much, we will spend this much, this is the revenue side, this is the supply side. But budget is supposed to do what? A housewife makes a budget, husband gives, now both are earning, that's a different thing. But originally in the conventional family system, husband would give the money to the wife and she will run the kitchen and she will run the household. She knew what was happening. She would save money. Because the demonetization, for example, a lot of wives are given the money which they kept secret from their husband for the last 20 years. In fact, my wife gave a lot of money which I didn't know she had that money. And it became very open. I said, my wife's name. I said, you had this much of money? It was almost equal to 1 month's salary of mine. She says, I kept it for 14 years. So demonetization, this because she had a budget. I don't know where she will spend, how she spends. She asked me money, I give it to her. I never ask how much money, I don't remember even. But she knows how to keep the money. Because she will never ask me money again. Once I give it to her, now you don't have to give because cashless, you have to only give. You sign, you withdraw, you PTM, ATM, TM, whatever you want to do, you TM every time. I don't care. But actually when the budget comes, I thought it was some kind of economic philosophy behind it. Budget is not meant to present only what I am earning, what I am spending. That should not be the exercise of a budget. That should not be the aim of a budget. But this is actually what it has become. Budget is meant to set tone for certain kind of economic recovery we are on or economic recovery we want to go for. Not that excited money, what happened for the last, if you are young now, maybe some of you may not have born, or maybe 5 years old. From 90 onwards, 80 onwards, till about 2001, 21 years, all the economic journalists and we journalists as well, some of them who were not writing on economics, they were concerned only about one thing in the budget. Whether the finance will put excise duty on yarn, polyester yarn or not. Why? Because Dhirubhai Ambani was trying to influence everybody. There is a fight between Nasli Wadia and Dhirubhai Ambani. Both were fighting. Every budget there used to be debate that Ambani will benefit or Nasli Wadia will benefit. If there was some BJP government, NDP government, Nasli Wadia will got away something or VP Singh sometimes did it. For 21 years, debate was only on one subject, whether Dhirubhai Ambani benefited from the budget or not. They were not interested whether you will benefit or I will benefit. Now, what is the budget? Whether the stock market will go up or not. How many people invest in the stock market? Retail is not interested because people are interested only to know whether this has become a symbol. Good budget means stock market has gone, it is good budget. If stock market has gone down, it's a bad budget. If that is what you expect from the budget, because all the discussion, CNBC and every newspaper, TV channel, I don't go on many of them because I don't agree with the views of the young generation who have been taught to only ask questions which suits the market. But budget is a bogus exercise. For the last 20 years, you look at they have been dealing with the supply side of the budget. Budget is always looking for how to increase supply of everything. Increase the supply of houses by giving them cheap loans. Loan come kar do, EMI come kar do. Give cheap loans for the cars. Don't put capital gains tax in the stock market so that some people can make money. Today, all the cities are just be able to create more demand in the hands of the people, more money in the hands of the people, rather than giving in the hands of the rich people. Other thing is, India is the richest company in the country. Earlier, you used to say, पढ़ते थे जमाने में किसी जमाने में लोग कहते थे, भारत एक सोने की चिड़िया है. भारत बहुत अमीर देश है. Now what is my take on this is, after the last 60 years, India is a poor country in which few rich people also live. Everybody is rich. You look at we were discussing about the budget. What the budget has done? Budget is supposed to give more demand in the hands of people, make equal distribution of wealth which is created. What is happening now? 10 years ago, if top 1% had got only 40% of the wealth of the country, now those 1% top have got 61% of the wealth of the country. 1% लोगों के पास हिंदुस्तान की 61% wealth है. If Mukesh Ambani can own a house of 5,000 crore rupees, how has he done it? Because all the promoters during the last 20 years, ever since the liberalization of this country started through the budget, have given promoters of the companies now a new way of making money without paying the taxes. What is called the dividend. अभी डिविडेंड टैक्स लगना शुरू हुआ है पिछले 2 साल से. पहले लगता है ट्रांजैक्शन टैक्स लगता है अभी भी थोड़ा. तो what happens? You promote a company, 3 साल चलाओ उसके 6 महीने चलाओ, IPO इशू कर दो. IPO इशू करके you have bought your own company at 10 rupees share, sell it for 100 rupees, 90 rupees profit, you don't have to pay tax on that. If I sell my Juki, which I bought for 500 rupees, sell it for 5,000, on the 4,500 I have to pay capital gains tax. But if I sell my stocks for 10,000 crore rupees, I don't have to pay rupees in tax. If all the promoters of this country have got planes and whatnot, cash in the personal assets of people like Mukesh Ambani and Sunil Mittal and Tata and everybody, look at them, the new promoters, 80,000 crore, 60,000 crore. How they got it? Because they got dividend, they sold their promoters' share at prices and never paid the tax. So budgets are expected to reduce the disparities, or they are supposed to make them more rich people richer and poor people poorer. I am also a beneficiary of these tax benefits. I never sold stock as an invitation. So the budget is supposed to give what? My expectation for budget is A, it should create equal opportunities for everybody. If capital gains tax has to be imposed, it should be, like Modi ji spoke about that in one of the interviews. He said, सोचना पड़ेगा कि स्टॉक मार्केट में जो लोग पैसे बनाते हैं उनको भी टैक्स देना चाहिए. नेक्स्ट डे मिस्टर अरुण जेटली said, प्राइम मिनिस्टर was misquoted. Finance minister of the country is worried about what prime minister said which will affect the stock market. उसको डिनाई कर दिया. और यहाँ प्राइसेस बढ़ रही हैं, बाकी चीजें उसके बारे में कोई बात नहीं करते. He is concerned whenever to talk about stock, but I asked one of the finance ministers, why don't you put capital gains tax? In India, when I was a leader for 10 years, I launched a campaign almost in terms of news, how you are doing it. And ultimately, after in 2006 and 7, 10% the capital gains tax was imposed on short-term gains. एक साल में बेचो कि 10% देना पड़ेगा. But after 3 years, if you sell it, no money has to pay. The stock market develop हो रहा है. I said, how is it developing? Your budgets. How many people retail investors are paying? Harshal Mehta and everybody made money and gone. He said, they will let why the money should go in the banks. Yeah, look at this. If I deposit the money in the bank, the fixed deposit of 1,000 rupees, I get 4 to 5% interest. On that also I pay income tax. But if I spend the money in the stock market, I don't pay any tax at all. So budgets have been encouraging this kind of money that it should go to the industries and they can start industries, they can have manufacturing concerns and they can make money. Ultimately, the poor should suffer. What kind of budget is that? Why can't middle class people have the money kept in the bank and make some interest, which is also income tax free? I expect that. 2 लाख का इंटरेस्ट है आपका, फ्री हो जाएगा, इतना फ्री हो जाएगा, सीनियर सिटीजन हो जाएंगे. Other things. If I want to build a house, I borrow, घर में बनता क्या है, 50 लाख से कम की घर नहीं बनता. But you are given income tax exemption only up to interest up to 1,50,000 rupees. उसके बाद टैक्स देना पड़ेगा आपको। और यहाँ अडानी अंबानी 1,000 करोड़ 2,000 करोड़ 5,000 करोड़ ले जाते हैं, उनके ऊपर कोई उनको सारा एकदम टैक्स एग्जम्प्टेड इंटरेस्ट। बिजनेस के लिए बोरो करो तो you don't have to pay any, it is all waived. But if you borrow for your own house building, you have to pay tax on the interest also. I expect from the budget, this anomaly should be finished. Interest on bank deposits should be increased because poor people want to keep in the money in their banks. And house building के लिए whatever benefits you give for the industry, starting industry, you should also have some kind of interest assumption. Get the water. So budget exercise when you are doing, you must keep everything in mind, not the people who can reach your office, who have access to you. Because I have a person, Mr. Nangia, sitting here from SHM. SHM, the Secretary General, I know Mr. Rao who is there. I'm just naming him because I know everybody, that's a different issue. I'm giving the example only to say that they can walk into any officer's room because they represent SHM or FICCI or CII. Our ministers are very happy to go to the meeting organized by SHM, CII, they are seen everywhere. But they ask them to attend a meeting of some hawker sitting on the street, they will never go there. Because the hawkers can't speak them like them, they can't give them the food which CIA can provide, SHM can provide. जो खोमचा लगाते हैं उनके साथ फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर कैसे बैठेगा भाई? फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर को अच्छे अच्छे कपड़े पहनने हैं, अच्छा दिखाई देना नहीं, कैसे उनकी बातें कैसे पता लगेगी? Is the budget meant for them or not? Or budget is meant for SHM, CII or FICCI? I remember one finance minister, VP Singh, who was the finance minister there, he broke that tradition. Finance ministers always invite economic journalists, economic editors. Because I don't know what was the reason. But VP Singh decided, okay, I'll invite all the non-economic editors also. He was the first finance minister who put out ads in the newspaper that whosoever wants any suggestion to be given for the budget, he should give it. He or she can send to him. So the email then he put a letter. He got 2 lakh letters from Aam Janata ke budget mein hone chahiye. Kuch unhone input kiya. Because central budget is meant for the entire country, for the entire population, it's meant for schools, it's meant for colleges, it's meant for industry, it's meant for housewives, it's meant for nurses, it's meant for health, whatever is there. How do you find the discrepancy in the budget? Then, for example, education in this country is so bad, public education. Schools mein kuch hai nahi. For private schools, for example, I spend on my grandchildren a lot of money going to school. I won't send them to public school because public school में जगह नहीं है. Because government through the budgetary processes made living in this India, made 2 Indias. One is Bharat, one is India. The budget is presented only for India, not for Bharat. My expectation for the budget has always been that it should be for Bharat, not for India. It should not be, because the interview जब फाइनेंस में देंगे, सबसे पहला इंटरव्यू दूसरे देंगे किसी इकोनॉमिक एडिटर को देंगे. वो अंग्रेजी में बोलेगा, वो भी अंग्रेजी में बोलेंगे, जो जनता जिनके फर्क पड़ता है उसको पता ही नहीं क्या बोल रहे हैं. When they will have the interaction, they will have the interaction only with the people who speak the language there, which is happening. For example, I asked what question, every finance minister, I have dealt with 20 finance ministers in my journalism case, more than 20 finance ministers. One thing which has happened after 91, that when the poor people are given something in the budget, in types of industry organization always fight, SHM, CII, FICCI, सब लोग जाएंगे, ये खत्म, सब्सिडीज खत्म करो. गरीब आदमी को सब्सिडी जो मिलती है, ये तो इससे नुकसान हो रहा, बजट में डेफिसिट बढ़ा, डेफिसिट नहीं खत्म होना चाहिए. Deficit खत्म कैसे? Deficit is the new fashion. All the economic journalists, economic opinion makers, they talk about deficit. In a welfare state, deficit must. Our budget is becoming deficit conscious. Deficit जैसे कोई मोटा हो जाएगा, गैस बन जाएगी, मर जाएगा. What about incentives? What's your concession you give to the industry? उसको बोलते हैं अमीर आदमी को अगर आप कोई टैक्स कंसेशन दे दे, दैट इज नोन एन इंसेंटिव. गरीब आदमी को बेचारे को छाड़ दे दिया, उसको बोल दिया सब्सिडी. जैसे आसान कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर आप बजट. मतलब यू आर गिविंग रिचर पीपल कंसेशन. You know, in the budget this time, this is the first time in the NDA budget. I am a friend of both finance minister and prime minister. First time they have done, because India we started campaign this also, because there was one item in the budget, revenue foregone, which means whatever concession you are given to various sections of the society, corporate, जैसे pet dogs के लिए food import करना, उसके ऊपर duty कम कर दी, या diamonds के ऊपर कम कर दी. These are small things which are duty कम. It was about 80,000 crore rupees in 2001. Revenue foregone for giving concession, duty concessions to rich people. 80,000 crore rupees. Now it is about 5 lakh crore rupees, which is total fraction of the income tax, direct taxes, almost half of it, not 40%. Rich people getting through the back door concession of 5 lakh rupees concession revenue foregone because duties were reduced on items which were not meant for public consumption, आम जनता के लिए नहीं थे. इस बजट को गड़बड़ कर दी गई. बजट में काम मिस कर दिया. I can't find it now. This is what the budget does. Budget has to be transparent. My expectation with the budget is it has to be demand oriented. It has to be transparent. It must not discriminate between one section of society and another. पर कर दें, इंसेंटिव दे दें. Because subsidies, LPG for example now, this is one thing which Prime Minister did, good thing, that give up, that rich people were asked to give up. And most of the people like me who don't deserve to surrender their subsidies because they can pay. But they didn't get enough money. Do it voluntarily. Why should I be getting subsidized gas? But why can't you give gas to everybody at the affordable price? Service tax you have put it now 15%. Even poor people have to pay service tax. Now you want a cashless economy, demonetization. इसका असर क्या होगा? Every talking about demonetization, I'll talk about it, but the budget के ऊपर impact होगा कि नहीं होगा, that's a different issue. Because you have to buy everything online, which means everything on record, nobody can hide, and everything you have to pay the service tax to this. Because this government or every government, even the state government, are happy because they don't have to tax everybody. 15% of GST के ऊपर झगड़ा हो रहा है. What is happening in goods and services tax? They say we should, states are fighting for one thing, central is fighting for one thing. CST means that you will put everything. Whatever you will buy in the market, you will end up paying 20% extra from next year. Why should I force everybody who is going to buy something? Some service in Delhi or village में बैठा हुआ कहीं पर उसके पास cash नहीं होगा. If he buys through the receipt, he has to pay 20% on tax. I don't mean that tax चोरी होनी चाहिए. But everybody will be paying 20%. The rich people can pay because it will go on their expenses. Is there any way of let rich people pay for the development of the poor? That should be the principal method of budget, that I will take money from the rich and make the poorer richer. That should be philosophy. Not the richer will become richer, poor will become poorer. That has been what the budget has been doing. हल्ला मच जाता है एक बार विड्रॉ को. अगर कैपिटल गेन्स टैक्स लगाएंगे आप, हल्ला मच जाएगा. All the newspapers will write, and so everybody is right. Expenses are also allowed. Chartered accountants are हमारे बैठे नांगिया साहब. How many fudging they do? We get it done. Because client asks it, they poor fellows have to do it. I don't blame them. Because that is the expenses claim करके खर्चा दिखाए जा रहे हैं travel करने के लिए foreign country के अंदर first class में बैठ करके we are going on a business meeting with your wife. It is put on expenses. First class में जाए. Look at the budget. I am saying what budget is provided. That you are allowing them expenses like this, that they can buy an aircraft. Now most of the top industrialists of Delhi or Bombay or anywhere in India. In 1980, I used to fly from the Chawla airport to anywhere. I would hardly notice one or two private planes. Tata का होता था ज़माने में. Now in Delhi airport and Bombay airport, there are more private planes than the commercial planes. 230 planes are parked in one day here in Delhi once for his wedding of a daughter of a minister. This is what the budget has done. If this is the budget which is going to promote, people are flying on private planes. I was stuck on the airport last week because of fog in Lucknow airport. All the three political top leaders that plane brought the plane with them. They didn't take off, they were standing there. पहले तो नहीं होता था. This is because of the budget. Obviously, it's because of the budget. Because they can afford and display their wealth. So the budget is meant to promote demand of all sorts of particular sort. You can import plane, उसके ऊपर duty नहीं है, duty 15% कर दी. You can import dog food, it is with duty free. You can get wine with, now the wine lobby is working in Delhi, wine के ऊपर आप duty कम कर दीजिए. Wine की duty कम करेंगे, अगर 100 करोड़ के ऊपर duty आपका revenue चला गया 200 करोड़ रुपए, it means you can open 100 schools less in this country. Or 10 good hospitals will not get medicine for 200 crore rupees. You look at the budget. If I am giving duty concession to somebody, for example, capital gains tax, there are people who have made money from 1,000 crore rupees to 10,000 crore rupees during the last 20 years without paying a single tax. Penny. अगर उनसे आपने टैक्स लिया होता, if you put only 1%, 2% tax, 3% tax on the long-term gain, you will earn about 20,000 crore rupees from capital gains. That 20,000 crore means you can open more hospitals, give us education of India needs budget is only less than 3% of the budget. Why education doesn't get enough money? Because they don't want good education given by good governments and public schools, government schools. They want only private schools there. So my budget expectation is very clear. First, I don't believe in the budget at all because this budget is only meant for the central government because state government have their own budget. They have their own powers. It doesn't affect the state government because it's fashionable. But central government can direct the state government, give a direction in a particular way. That budget is meant to equalize everybody. Create demand. Don't create elite in this country. Don't make first-class citizens. Don't give any concession to people who don't deserve. You can reduce the corporate taxes, I don't mind that. Because black money is happening because you are taxing too much. But don't give them any other concession. Like in America, you have to pay flat tax. They are not allowed to say anybody uses a flat jet, they have to pay from their own pocket. You see the ministers in Europe walking on the street. They don't have drivers to take their cars back home. You do the secretary to the government where the officials are working, they are all the same. But here everybody gets a house first himself. Minimum government, maximum governance was the slogan of this government. Budget is supposed to went, they were saying to reduce expenses in the government. Governance of this country is the most expensive thing. Budget has never addressed this issue. कि how do like घर की वाइफ जो है अगर खर्चा इनकम कम हो तो खर्चा कम करने की कोशिश सेविंग बढ़ाने की कोशिश करती है. Has this government ever done savings of this country are coming down now? Has this government ever done to reduce the number of people needed in the government? When I joined journalism in 1978, there were only 76 secretary level officers in this government, central government, 76 only, including railway board chairman and all. Now there are 600 secretaries in the government of India. 600. And each secretary of the government of India costs in terms of money, because they are entitled to 9 PAs as a junior staff. He needs the room also. He costs about 2.5 crore rupees per year. Why do we need them so on a 600 level secretary level? Budget has never addressed these questions. Because running the government budget always means you must reduce the cost of governance. You must reduce the departments. No, everything is becoming an email because you are spending so much money on everything. But non-productive expenditure budget must show that non-productive expenditure, now planned, non-planned, they are saying there is no planned budget, there is no non-planned budget, that is over now. So there will be only revenue expenditure. Roads are not being constructed. Vajpayee time you had 11 kilometers of road was being constructed. Now Mr. Nitin Gadkari promised 30 kilometers, he has not failed because he has not been able to take it to 11 kilometers. Now because people are not coming into the system, they are becoming expensive for us. So when you talk about budget, budget is not meant for only televised debate. कि भाषण दे दिया आपने 2.5 घंटे हम लोग हम बैठ के टेके देखे जा रहे हैं आप बच्चे देखते नहीं होंगे. How many people see televised budget debate out of you when the finance minister speaks? Okay. Why there is budget? I don't understand. The young generation doesn't want it. That's what I'm saying. Budget is expectation. Budget is only for us, for the newspaper, for the industry, for CIA, for FICCI. They will be all there in some hall, and TV channel will go and have the interview from there, get a sponsorship, get some money, and show us the budget has happened. But yes, if you want, you have to budget. But what about demonetization? Everybody is asking demonetization. आप बच्चे लोग भी ATM ज़्यादा यूज करते हैं या घर से पैसे आते होंगे. You may not have faced some problem. I don't know. Anybody face problem? You face problem or not? No, na. Anybody who think they face problem? Nobody.
For withdrawing the cash is a problem.
Anybody raise up? It was a problem or not a problem?
Problem.
Raise hands. I want. Minor or major? I don't want to say. Did it cause any trouble? Not temporary even. So demonetization, what was it done? It hardly made any difference to anybody's life. Politicians are saying, बर्बाद कर दिया देश को, कुछ कह रहे हैं नहीं कर दिया देश को. अब the entire money has come back to the system. Black money कहाँ गई किसी को पता नहीं. Black को white बनाने के लिए demonetization किया है, no? Because what is the objective? So politicians कह रहे हैं because somebody that we journalists always speculate कि मायावती को हराना था, उसके पैसे खराब करने से या ब्लैक कराना था. उसने 105 करोड़ रुपए जमा करा दिए, कर लें जो कर लीजिए उसका. आपने 105 करोड़ पकड़ा, बाकी कहाँ है? The demonetization, was it a step for economic reasons? Or was it a subject for political reasons? Because look at the newspaper, कहते हैं RBI वाले कहते हैं गवर्नमेंट ने कहा, RBI ने कहा, RBI कहते हैं हमारे को कहा गया था, हमने कहा ही नहीं. इसलिए so demonetization, the 15 lakh crore rupees you have withdrawn, only poor people sitting in the villages, they might have felt okay, अमीर आदमी का पैसा चला गया, हमारे पास पैसे हैं, but now 2 महीने बाद जब उनके पैसे नहीं हैं, अब पैसा मिल नहीं रहा है, परेशानी हो गई. तो will demonetization meant to improve the budget deficit? और जो बैंकों का पैसा पर उनके पास कैश ज्यादा हो जाए कि बैंकों को इतना पैसा चला गया लोगों के पास वापस नहीं कर, कि आपने 6 लाख करोड़ रुपए 7 लाख करोड़ रुपए जो डूबा पड़ा है उसको लेने के लिए बैंक के कैश बढ़ा दिया, so that the burden comes. अब दूसरा प्रॉब्लम ये है, people of banks have got extra cash sitting in their banks and they have to give interest now. मेरे सेविंग बैंक में जिसके पास नहीं था, इसे जाके 2 लाख रुपए जमा करा दिए, 15 लाख करोड़ रुपए आपके पास बैंक में आ गया कैश, which you are not giving back to the subscriber. Even the minimum rate of interest 3 to 4% you are giving on the saving account. एक साल अगर if that lying in your bank, you have to pay around 10,000, 15,000 crore rupees as interest to that bank deposit. So you are trying to improve the bottom line of the bank. वो और बटा बैठ गया उनका. And then you are telling on top of that reduce the interest rate. Even deposits you have to pay the interest. Even if it's cheap interest, people are not buying because demand are not going. Other budget, then somebody was discussing with Mr. Nangia just now. If you read the figures, car sales are down, export is down, import is down, scooter sales are down. Even then we are going at 7%. पता नहीं कहाँ से पड़ जाता. Budget will reflect that. So the problem, the question with the budget arises as an economist by education. No other word, democracy, no in America. Have you heard of the president presenting the budget to the Senate and House of Representatives? No. This figure giving, what difference does it make? You make the policy statement, let it be left to the government. Just announce on the website, ये taxes हैं इस साल के लिए बस खत्म. But budget has come like a Shahrukh Khan or Amir Khan film कि वहाँ पर फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर हीरो बन जाता 2 दिन के 1 दिन के लिए 1 घंटे के लिए सुंदर से कपड़े पहन के आएंगे शेर शादी करेंगे तो because they have every year they produce a film. It is meant only for now. Railway budget will not be presented. So there will be only, earlier there used to be 2 heroes. One railway minister like Lal Prasad Yadav who will act like a what you call funny character in the film होता है ना एक होता है serious character होता है hero होता है जो. So for me budget is only like a film which excites you for a moment. There is some hero who's called villain so if he doesn't give a good budget. And after that, people say, over, everything is over, people forget next day. 3 days editorial चलते हैं, 4 दिन discussion TV में होता है, 2-4 जर्नलिस्ट पैसे बना लेते हैं, भाषण दे करके बस खत्म कर दो. Why this exercise? You should have a budget, yes. Budget should make only policy statements, no figures. That will ensure that this sector goes by this much, this sector goes by this much, we'll do everything for them, we'll give a policy statement, we'll make FDI more interesting, we'll make FI more interesting, we'll make schools a little better. Budget should always talk about big statement, policy statement, not talk about nitty-gritty, 8% यहाँ कम हुआ 2% कहाँ कम हुआ. It should be a serious subject. It should not be a debate only for TV debates. It should not be headline grabber. But it should be a serious thing which leaves a long-term impact on your life. And only 65 budgets have been presented in the last 65-70 years, regular budgets. क्या असर पड़ा है? Nobody remembers last year's budget because I read the speeches also of the various finance ministers. Almost same. Budget A part, B part has got taxes and A part has got the general speech like. And 70% of the promise given by the, which is serious thing, have never been fulfilled. Even the Jetli what speech made last year has not been fulfilled, many of them. He thought, this investment we will do this much. Even 40% disinvestment has not been done. So what is the budget there for? Budget is meant only for politicians. My expectation was the budget, if you want to possess a budget, give a big statement. Give a direction in which the country you will take it. Make it an egalitarian society, equal taxation for everybody. Give money for the social sector which you have reduced during the last 2 years. Budget on health has gone down, budget on education has gone down, budget on sports has gone down. Every social sector budget has gone down because you don't have the money. Reduce everything, freebies. Manrega, for example, Manrega started during the Congress for getting votes. Why should they choose Manrega? You give them jobs. Nobody Manrega में पैसे मिल जाएंगे आपको 2-4-5 हज़ार साल के क्या करोगे काम करना नहीं. The budget should not produce unemployed people who are paid out of the government money. Budget should create jobs there. Country needs jobs. And jobs will come only when the sector picks up. Sector will pick up only when there is a demand in the society. India has suffered because our budgets have all been favoring supply side. They have never looked at the demand side. Supply side is extreme capitalism. If Trump has won today, it has become because he is ultimately speaking against globalization. If the budget is opening up for the rest of the world, and Indian industry will die because you are getting Amazon, everybody there in this country, Amazon is selling now doormats as our national flag as doormats. If that kind of thing you are going to promote here, they will take away the money. So you have to have budget which produces raises your own bar. It must encourage domestic competition. I am on free economy. It should not invite people from outside. India has got brains like you sitting here. Most of the Indians who go abroad do better. Most of the economists who are teaching abroad are Indians. Most of the scientists who are working in NASA are Indians. So we talk about in this way that हम किसी से कम नहीं हैं. India is much better than many of the economies in the world. We need not copy anybody. What is foreign is not good. What is desi, that is the best. I think budget should encourage Desikaran of India, not Videshikaran of India. That is what I expect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chawla. I think now we can see the audience also stirring now. So I'd like to invite Mr. Nangia now. Mr. Nangia, as I described earlier, is a chartered accountant and has been running his own practice for the last 34 years. Mr. Nangia, would you like to share with us some of your top 3 expectations?
Before I share with you the expectations, let me just take you something. Mr. Chawla has shared the budget in a totally different format, and sir is taking it a different way, but I'm going to take it to the totally different tangent. Before I say this, I have a lot more to share with the audience and the students here. The question is, will this budget, 2016 budget, will be the reformist budget? Will this budget reduce the tax, which is a serious challenge before us these days because of the current demonetization and woes which we all are suffering? Will you find this budget actually churning the private investment which has been stagnant for last 2 years? These are the serious challenges that the government has it before right now to do with the budget 2017. Budget making has always been shrouded in mystery, and you know that North Block is totally under siege. The point is this, there's an expectation. Everybody expects something from the budget. Everybody, whether there's an adrenaline rush with everybody, whether you're a student, whether you're self-employed, whether you're a salaried earner, whether you're a corporate, foreign investor. Everybody looks for tax exemptions, deductions, less taxes to be paid. Everybody wants to have a bait from the government in terms of budget is concerned. Before I share with you the expectation, let me share with you some very interesting facts of the economy of this country actually. India today is 2.1 trillion economy. We are the 7th largest economy in the world. In terms of purchasing power parity, we are the 3rd largest economy in the world today. It took us 60 years to reach to 1 trillion. It took us just next 7 years to become a 2nd trillion economy in 2014. 2020, not far from here, you will be the 5th largest economy in the world. 2030, we will be the 3rd largest economy in the world. What we suffer, like what Mr. Chawla said it very well, what we suffer is a per capita income. The concentration of the wealth is actually with few. But here, yes, in terms of per capita income, we stand pitifully very, very bad. Today, the global economy is 75 trillion. India contributes 2.8% to global wealth as of today. You'll be surprised. There are just 15 countries in the world who have 1 trillion economy. 91 lowest country in the world contributes 1% of the global wealth. This is what India economy is. There are strengths, there are shortcomings, there are weakness. Figure speaks itself about it. Let me tell you one thing, it's something very surprising, it's something I should use the word disgraceful. Sorry to use this word for this. A nation of 125 crores, 3.65 crores files the tax return, which is just 3%. If you dissect the figure, it is actually what I'm saying, and then you'll believe it. 1 crore people file their tax returns below taxable limit. Less than 2.5 lakhs. If you want to know the exact figure, it is 99 lakhs people file the tax return which is less than 2.5 lakhs. 2 crores people file the tax return from 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs. What you are left with? Let me take you to the next bracket from 5 to 10. Take away another 52 lakhs. What you are left? 48,000 people file the tax return with an income of more than 1 crore rupees. 48,000 people. 35,000 luxury cars on an average of 80 to 90 lakhs are sold every year. But the tax returns which are filed are only 48,000 people file a tax return above 1 crore rupees. We actually, the country where these are certain global norms, we can't go away with it actually. These are standards actually of the world standard. We contribute 17% of taxes to GDP. Asian average is 25%. This is something we need to understand when the budget making exercise is done. These factors are taken into consideration with the global standards set historically from ages and centuries going forward is concerned. What this demonstrates, what this reflects, India per se is a non-compliant society. Here, the evasion was never considered to be immoral. It was never considered to be unethical. It was a way of life. So what the government has done is basically to increase this tax base, government realizes the issue here is not to increase the number of SSE, taxpayer. The biggest challenge is this in the country, like exactly Mr. Chawla also said it, is I believe people earning don't report their income. There's an under-reporting is a challenge. I don't want to add numbers, make it 4 crores, 5 crores. You don't pay taxes, we don't need those SSEs. We want people who are under-reporting their income, and those are the sectors that needs to be got, and in my opinion, increasing number will not help you. People who are not reporting their income are more material, basically, where the government needs to really go after. And what really, when you make the budget, before I answer the question specifically, really pulls the economy down, pulls your GDP down, puts the goods down, services down, is your parallel economy. And you'll be surprised when I say about tax evasion, it's not new, it's not a local issue, it's a global issue. If you want, I take you something very interesting actually. You need to go to the medieval and ancient days when the first tax laws was found in the books of Kautilya, known as Arthashastra. Even those days, there was a punishment for tax evasion. It means when the tax saw the light of the day, the evasion was always there. It is changing. Let me tell you today, everybody here. Your students never tell you. I'm watching globally what is happening, and I'm watching it very closely, and I'm studying it very closely. There's a limited shelf life left for black money. It's not anymore a local war. It's a global war. Every country in the world has joined hands together to see that eradicate this parallel money. And you see from 2018, not far away from now, the generation of the black money is substantially likely to go down. And when every country, including islands, tax havens, will start exchanging information about each other mandatorily, automatically, without seeking. This is going to happen from 1st of January 2018. So tax havens which act as a safety locker will likely to get demolished, or the presence will substantially get reduced. Government has done a lot of steps, let me tell you, I'm not talking about demonetization, it has a lot of other pitfalls. Enactment of Benami Provision Act, anti-avoidance regulation. A lot of steps that government has taken it. Let's see how much government is ultimately going to bear the fruit. Now coming to the budget making, there are two pillars of budget making. Here, sir has said it differently, but I am saying it differently. As my own thought, then my apologies, I'm talking to you. The budget pillars of the edifice of budget, the pillar of budget is a fiscal budget, fiscal deficit, and a current account deficit. The entire budget exercise globally is made like that. And it is the first time in the last 2-3 years you find the government following a proper responsibility way has contained the fiscal deficit. We are in the range, and the fiscal deficit is going from 7-8% down. It has gone to 3-3.5%, a very decent improvement. Current account deficit is close to nil. Here the government will come out with bold measures, because when the deficit is nil, they can afford to spend the money, and you will see this is likely to happen in this budget. Yes, you have to be careful. Some of the biggest factor, which is my worry, is the crude price. I'm sorry, I'm becoming technical because you are smart young boys. If crude price remains same, government will should likely to take a bold decision in terms of private spending is concerned, because they will have money to spend the money is concerned. Now, this is something which, again, my thought, something which I think is a little bit I'm going to come up with very new ideas. You know, there is a paradigm shift globally. From globalization, you're moving to deglobalization. What happened to Brexit? What happens to other 29 EU countries have started talking about it? There is a growing nationalism coming. There is a protectionism coming. There is a new wave coming out when in 1990 we were under protectionism, we went to globalization, the world is going back to deglobalization. What President Trump said last week to 2 automobiles companies who are putting up their plant in Mexico, he warned them. Next day they decided they are not going to do this. This is protectionism, this is nationalism. And I'm going to use a very strong word. Let me tell you, please, everybody remember. There's a declining faith in democracy. 10 countries, developed countries in the world are moving away from that. They're moving towards authoritarian. Brexit is one of the examples, and President Trump is the second there, which controls a good amount of it. Take beauty to add it. Half of the economies of the world is moving towards that fashion. This is a paradigm shift which is happening globally. One important part before I come to the India budget specific, the debt. Debt is the biggest worry for every government. There is a developing country, you have to match it to your GDP. You know, in a country like India, it should be 40%, but we are close to 60%. USA is 110%. $17 trillion economy, 19 trillion debt. Now where's the warning? Where's the bomb declared? It's China. China is 11 trillion economy. The debt is more than 30 trillion. This is the bomb that is tickling. We do not know what happens. We have more economists here. We'll share with them. As regarding budget expectation is concerned, I 100% agree with what Mr. Sir said it. You need to put more money in hand to create demand. You need to give the people who have suffered basically to reduce the taxes. It's important, and this money will churn the economic activity, production, employment. It has an automatic bearing. Is one important thing. Second, your corporate tax rate, if you recall it, if you people have seen the budget of the last 2 years, it is likely to go down. But here is another part which I want to share with you. Globally, world of corporate tax rates are going down. UK has reduced the tax rate to 18 to 20%. President Trump has said it, I'm going to make it 20% from 35 to 38% in 5 years' time. So you cannot live in isolation. India cannot afford to tickle with the rate. They will have to faster put it in an accelerator mode to reduce the corporate tax rate is concerned. Digital India. President Modi, Prime Minister Modi's digital, he needs to come out more. They are going through a tough time. He needs to give more incentive to young generation, to digital people using digital, extend more holiday period, give them more capital gain relief, give them some extra taxability and ESOP, little technical, but they need to really look into this as concerned. Digital infrastructure needs to be put in place now because of the present way we are doing it. Ease of doing business is very critical in India today, where we compare very unfavorably with the global countries. Government really needs to do and put it on an accelerated mode. You cannot tickle it. You are 1/30 in the world. Your target is to reach to 80 in next year's time. You have to work, government has to work really very, very hard. And the last two is the stress money which the bank assets are there. A banking system is in a serious challenge today. The total debt, or we can say stress assets, is 10 lakh crore. We were expecting the balance sheet to be cleared by 17, but it has been, this is not being maintained now. It is likely to go in future, it's likely to be extended by a couple of years. This is the serious, one of the serious, most structural challenge which this government has it to restore this banking part is concerned. So we believe, friends, budget will be a very, very good platform for the government to regain its glory, regain its mojo, especially when it has seriously been affected, eroded, checked, challenged, affected very badly to the masses because of demonetization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nangia. I will now request Professor Bhanumurthy bring in the economics perspective to the whole budget.
Thank you very much, Sudipto. Let me thank IIC for inviting me to this panel discussion. After listening to Mr. Chawla, I generally optimistic in terms of budget, but now I am feeling very, very pessimistic. But there is a catch. To be more pessimistic, you need to read at least 60 budgets. So I'm sure none of you, I mean, as you raised in the beginning, many of you not really started reading the budget, so I'm sure you are more optimistic than any of us on this panel. Regarding the budget, let me put this in a perspective. What is this budget, union budget means? Is it just a statements of policy for the next 1 year, or is it just a statement of financial, the financial statement like the way we present for all the companies? I think it's a mix of both. We have in a budget, we have revenues, right? We have expenditures. So the outcome of these revenues and expenditures is your fiscal deficit. I think that's one thing that we look at. If your expenditure is more than revenues, we say that there is a fiscal deficit, but if your expenditure is less than revenues, we say fiscal surplus. And we all know, we have been listening about FRBM, right? I think there is a fiscal responsibility budget management. I think all the newspapers or analysts look at one number for the budget, that is fiscal deficit target, rather than budget deficit target. The budget deficit target is coming from 14th Finance Commission recommendation, and in fact before that there was a Kelkar committee where we laid a path for fiscal deficit for next 5 years, that is up to 1920. So what it said is that the fiscal deficit should not exceed 3% for the next year. So the finance minister would like to try that he achieves the 3% fiscal deficit, that is 3% as a ratio to GDP in nominal numbers. So there he doesn't have much degrees of freedom, because if you little deviate, if you say that I'm going to achieve 3.1%, big papers will start rising that it has gone out of control or something like that. So there is not much leverage there. On the expenditures, we all know, Most of the expenditures are committed, that is salaries, wages and all those things. What we call in economics is auto-regressive process. This year's expenditure depends on the last year's expenditure, very simple. And then there are social sector programs. As Mr. Chawla really said, we are a welfare state. We have to have our own expenditures on the social sector. We have to provide resources for creating demand at the all sector level. So expenditures also we really don't have much, right? T plus 1 is a function of T in terms of expenditure. So there is not much leverage. So finally it is the revenues where the closure of this whole FRBM or the budget making process is the revenues. Okay? So then you start looking at, yes, my expenditure is this is my target of the fiscal deficit, then I have to look at how to bridge this gap. So the revenues you start looking for, taxing some new things and all those things. So for all these things, the mother of all budget is the number, which is a very, very magic number. I think all of you should know it. What is the nominal GDP growth next year? Okay? I mean, if somebody, I think many of them know it, definitely Mr. Gupta, who was in the finance ministry, the Department of Economic Affairs should give first, I mean, that is like Ganesha of the budget. Okay? Like for anything, we start praying Ganesha, right? So here, the budget making process, nominal GDP growth forecast for the next year is the number which you need to get first. Then you start looking at what is the revenue projections. Following the current revenue plan, what would be the revenue projections for the next year and all those things. So then you start looking at what would be the revenue gap, those kind of stuff. So that is the overall framework of the budget, and the expenditures will have some kind of, each and every expenditure, behind that there is a policy statement. So in that sense, I would say that budget is not only the financial statement, but it's also a policy statement in my view. So now, most importantly, coming to the 17-18 budget, I think this budget is going to be presented in a most uncertain situations. When I say uncertain situation, I think all of you must be thinking demonetization, right? So we really don't know where the economy is standing at the moment. So I told you, we need to know what is the next year nominal GDP growth. So for that, we need to know what is the current situation. Right now, we really don't know what is the growth numbers. And I'm sure you must have seen the advanced estimate for 2016-17, which said 7.1%. In fact, the CSO has been forced to give the advanced estimates 1 month before that they used to give. In the past, they used to give by the end of January. Now, because the budget has been preponed, and they have been forced to give the advanced estimate by first week of January, and they have given 7.1%, which is not very different from what RBI said, and CSO also very clearly said this 7.1% doesn't take demonetization impact into consideration. So now if you don't know what is your T, how can you forecast T plus 1 period? Okay, I'm sure you have brilliant minds here. And if you want to predict T plus 1, you need to know the robust T numbers, right? We just don't have T numbers. We just don't have 16, 17 GDP estimates. So that is one big uncertainty in my view. I think we need to really wait and see how this Department of Economic Affairs is going to give a number for next year. So that is one uncertainty. The second uncertainty is on external sector, as Mr. Nangia really pointed out. There is a huge shift from globalization to deglobalization. I think that's something that we need to remember. And what we need to focus is purely a domestic demand-driven economy, as Mr. Chawla already highlighted. In that kind of situation, what happens to our exports, right? And exports has many implications. The decline in exports has very many implications, particularly in the employment situation. So So there is an uncertain world, there is uncertainty in the commodity prices. For the past 3 years, we have seen the prices coming down, but now if you look at any of the futures market prices, you take the oil prices. Oil prices, last year the budget assumed $45 per barrel. Now this year, if the 17-18 budget is going to be made, they cannot assume anything less than $68 per barrel. So there is an increase of almost 25% in the oil prices. And in fact, there are other commodity prices which are also picking up. The steel prices are going up in international markets. Food prices are going in international markets. So there are many other things. The macroeconomic uncertainty. When I say macroeconomic uncertainty, I'm sure all of you studied economics here. So the macroeconomic uncertainty is, we have a lot of theoretical relationships that we study in economics, right? We just take one simple macroeconomic relationship. Investment and interest rate relationship. So what is the relationship that we expect? Positive or negative? Negative. So it's an exercise for all of you. You just plot investment rate for the past 7-8 years and the interest rate. Okay, if you get a negative relationship, I'll be very happy to see that. You just don't see that kind of negative relationship. In fact, you would see a positive correlation between these two. In a sense, I'm trying to say that there is a huge challenge for all macroeconomics. You take the relation between exports and exchange rate. What is the relationship you expect? If the exchange rate depreciates, what should you expect? Increase in exports. So again, you plot these two series. I'll be surprised if we get a positive relationship. The point I'm trying to say is that the macroeconomic uncertainty at the moment is really a major issue for any public policy making, particularly if the purpose is to revive the growth. So that's one of the reasons why RBI is always hesitant to reduce the interest rate, despite knowing that investments rate are falling. Okay, so that is the macroeconomic uncertainty. I think again it is not very limited to India, but the textbook macroeconomics is very different. We read, there are lots of theories, but when it comes to practice, they're absolutely different from textbook economics. So this is another uncertainty. There is uncertainty on GST, the taxes. We were expecting that April 1st GST would be implemented, but we really don't know when they are going to be implemented. On the expenditure side, thanks that previous speakers did not highlight this. So we just don't have a target on the public expenditure at the moment. Previously we had a planning commission. The 5-year plan used to be there, that is the long-term target. Now we don't have a target. So if there is no target, how do you plan your expenditure for the next 5 years or 10 years or 15 years? So there is no target, there is a target uncertainty. Previously, the planning commission used to tell this is the growth target, like in 5 years you achieve 8.2%, or in 5 years you reduce your poverty by this percentage points. Now we just don't have any target, there is a vacuum. So given this kind of uncertainty, this budget, I really don't know what is going to come, but what I expect from the budget is that focus on reviving growth, and at least there should be a 5-year, if not 5-year, maybe 5-year is a bad word because we don't have planning commission, at least a 3-year period growth target, or the 7-year growth target, or the 15-year growth target, whatever it is. You should have a target so that you can see how to reach the target. So it should revive the growth. And on the fiscal, as a person who worked on 13th Finance Commission numbers as well as the 14th Finance Commission numbers on the FRBM roadmap, I feel this is the most misunderstood subject in this country. The reason is the FRBM, the target, the fiscal responsibility budget management numbers, is actually misunderstood in a sense. The FRBM consists not just of the fiscal deficit. The FRBM consists of revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, as well as the public debt. There are consistency between all the three numbers. So what we are highlighting is that yes, government has achieved 3.5%, but as all of you know, Your national income identity, all of you remember, y is equal to c plus I plus g plus x minus m, right? Right? So there is a g, right? If the fiscal deficit is coming down, isn't it g is also coming down? Then how is y is going up? So the FRBM, if the FRBM is going to result in declining y, why should we have FRBM? Right? So the FRBM is not just fiscal deficit. FRBM has to be expansionary. That means it should have a positive impact on growth. That means FRBM is nothing but expenditure switching mechanism. Expenditure switching from revenues to capital. Okay? Then only your Y go up. Okay? Otherwise the Y will not go up. So what we are looking at is that we are bringing down the fiscal deficit. How many of you know what is the revenue deficit target for this year? So, I mean, don't worry. I mean, even the journalists don't highlight it. Don't worry about it. Even the rating agencies don't worry about it. So, you also don't worry. So, we are happy that the fiscal deficit has come down. But last year budget, if you look at, the revenue deficit has gone up. So, what is the difference between revenue deficit and fiscal deficit? The difference between revenue deficit and fiscal deficit is nothing but public capital expenditure. Okay? The public capital expenditure is coming down when you are achieving the fiscal deficit, not the revenue deficit. So that is growth retarding. That is not what FRB, at least when I estimated the numbers for the 30th Finance Commission, that is not what we expected. Actually, we brought down the revenue deficit to 0. That actually brings down the fiscal deficit to 3%. So now what government is doing the most easiest way, bring down the capital expenditure, or the public investment part of it. That can never lead to higher growth. I think that's something that we need to. So in the context of the budget, what I expect, I don't know what they're going to do, but I would expect that they should fix the revenue deficit target. If they don't achieve 3%, I don't have any problem. Particularly when the investments are declining in the country, I don't mind the public investment going up, but at the same time, revenue deficit target need to be achieved. So in my view, the pink paper should focus more on the revenue deficit target. Please leave the fiscal deficit number on its own. So, can I take 2 minutes? Yeah. On the expenditure, I was told that we don't have a framework now. It's my submission to the government. I think we need to have the expenditure framework so that we'll see that how far we are achieving every year in the next 15 years. For that, we have a very classic SDG goals, right? All of you know what is SDG goals? Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. See, if you follow that framework, I think it is easy for planning your expenditures for next 15 years. By the way, many of the state governments started following. So it's only the central government that needs to follow. I hope they will learn lesson from some of the state governments. So we should have a framework for 2030, but not just focus only on 2019 in my view. So on the banking sector, let me say one small thing. Yes, banking sector is one major area for the budget to be focusing on. Particularly when I said, we keep blaming public sector banks for no reason of theirs actually. But one important reason I will tell you why these public sector banks are not able to do, actually it comes back to the public sector bank boards. Right now, more than 70% of the banks don't have chairman and managing directors. How do we expect them to take decision? And most of the boards are empty, actually. Now, when I said that most of the boards are empty, somebody said, even RBI board is empty. so it doesn't matter whether public sector bank boards are empty or not. So I think there is a need for the budget to really focus on the banking sector as well. And last year and all we kept on saying that we need to recapitalize. Now I don't think we need to recapitalize. At least you make appointments in the but need not be part of the budget. And one last thing, there's also need to have a consistency between monetary policy and the fiscal policy. And in the context of the FRBM committee, which has been appointed, I think 3 months back, we are hoping that there will be a revision in the overall fiscal deficit targets, inconsistent with the inflation. So I keep arguing that monetary policy has been given so much of space in the form of what is that called, flexible inflation targeting, right? So I used to say that it's like a cricket ground target. You can hit 6 any part of the ground. Okay, so you have been given so much of flexibility for the monetary policy, but when it comes to the fiscal policy, we have a very tight target. I think, of course, there is a relationship between the fiscal deficit and inflation. That's very important to understand. And in the context of that, it's very important for the FRBM committee. I'm sure they may not suggest this, but I've been arguing that FRBM committee should come out with revenue deficit range rather than a revenue deficit point target. I hope some of this will come out. But one of the things, as Mr. Chawla pointed out, one of the ideas which is roaming around is that providing this universal basic income. I think even today in the Financial Express there is some article on that. I hope this kind of, but the catch here is India just doesn't have poverty numbers. So I think there is a huge data uncertainty. We have rejected the Tendulkar poverty, and we are yet to accept Rangarajan poverty. And there was a Prime Minister's High Court Committee on Poverty Numbers. They have just lifted their hands. They said that we cannot fix poverty line for this country. So now, in the absence of all these things, what is this universal basic income that you are talking about? To whom you are going to target? I think the point I'm trying to say is that there is a huge data uncertainty. There is a huge macroeconomic uncertainty. I think the government, if not necessary to be part of the budget, but I think they need to focus more on these kind of issues before going for talking about big things. Thank you.
I will now request Mr. Gupta to speak on the tag that Sure. Sure.
Friends, a lot of points which I wanted to make have been covered by the speakers who spoke before me. Still, I'll start from where Dr. Murthy's last point, which is the fiscal and the monetary policy. At the macro level, they must move in the same direction. Now, under the UPA, whereas RBI had followed the tight monetary policy, the fiscal authorities were following in the ministry's policy, which were expansionary, high fiscal deficit, both in the central government as well as in the state government. That the combined deficit was something around 10% of GDP of both state and center. Now, to me, the situation seems to be reversing. Whereas the ministry is stressing on easy monetary policy, they are themselves following a fiscal policy which seems to be very tight. The 3% fiscal deficit target, and which RBI governor also yesterday said that we are still higher than the Group 20 countries. I think there is a strong need to have a relook at that. And the reasons are very, very obvious. First of all, the 7% growth rate or 7.1% growth rate, there are a lot of question marks there. The first thing is that manufacturing in first 7 months of the year actually contracted by 0.3% between April October 2016. And capital formation has gone down from 39% in 2012-13 to 30,014-15. So there has been substantial reduction in capital formation. Similarly, savings rate has also come down. Now, even if the interest rates are slowing down, somehow we don't expect private sector to invest in hard sectors like infrastructure. The private sector prefers to invest where the returns are fast and quick. They are very happy to invest in telecom sector, which is only technology driven and gives quick returns. They will be very happy to invest in financial sector or banking sector where they would get quick returns by lending for consumer durables, motor vehicles and houses and things like that. So substantial investment is required in the infrastructure sector. Capital formation is required. That rate has to go up. In the surface transport sector, a lot of investment is required, particularly for the railways. That was seen to be the prime reason for merging the railway budget with the general budget. That now general budget can provide more resources and railways will not have to pay dividend to the central government, so they will have more resources of investment. Similarly, the road sector. The indicator of development for any country is the condition of its roads. If we can make good roads, then growth will happen automatically. It's a big trigger for growth anywhere in the world. You see the motorways in the West, you see the roads in China, the quality of their bridges and roads is very, very important for movement of goods and traffic, vehicular. So, and ports. We have a lot of investment which is required in ports. No private sector, no private investor will come and invest there. So capital formation has to increase. Therefore, we have to ease this target of fiscal deficit, and there is no harm there in that sense. Now, another big concern is this employment. The growth which has been in the past has been what we call a jobless growth. And unless there is investment in hard sectors, the requirement for jobs will not go up. We have seen, in the education sector, how many engineering colleges are getting closed, how many even management institutes are not having enough students. So why it is happening? It's because we are having growth, but the growth is jobless. So we have to revive jobs. Now, on the external side also, the situation is somewhat worrying. That the exports have grown only by 0.1% during April-November 2016. And imports have actually declined by 8.4% during this period. So, hard steps is to be taken to promote investment and capital formation. Now, it's already said that on the direct taxes side, rates have to come down, compliance has to increase. I'm not very comfortable with the cesses. Time and again we add more and more cesses, and this makes the system somewhat distorted. So, cesses must be somehow merged in the rates according to me. On the exemptions, there are some exemptions which serve, which have some merit. So meritorious exemptions have to continue if they have to fulfill a particular purpose of public policy. For example, if you want to direct investment in a particular region or a sector, and if that aim of public policy has to be achieved, then such exemptions will have to stay, but non-meritorious exemptions must go. Now, on the demonetization, I will only say that it's now a fait accompli. So, I will not go into the merits of demonetization or the merits or demerits. The question is that why black money is generated and where it is absorbed. If we can plug those areas, then possibly people will not have lure for black money. Now, first thing is the gold. The gold is one place where people want to park their black money. Now, for gold, my suggestion is that individuals should not be allowed to purchase or hold primary gold. Last year we had seen many banks and even public sector institutions like MMTC promoting sale of gold. I used to get at least 3 to 4 calls every day from the nationalized banks, please buy some gold from us. So there is no use for individuals being allowed to hold primary gold. In fact, there should be a scheme. I mean, I'm not floating a scheme, but it must be thought of, where primary gold of individuals comes to the government so that imports come down. And all primary gold without any tax, in my view, could be purchased at the international price and could be given to, say, jewelry makers or exporters of jewelry, or those even who make jewelry for domestic purposes. Because demand for jewelry for domestic consumption will never go down. We have some kind of affection for gold, but there is no justification for individuals keeping primary gold as a store of value or to hide black money. The other big sector is housing, secondary transactions in housing. Now, where there are always two components, there is a white money and there is a black money. The seller also wants it, the buyer also wants it. My suggestion is that why not we have an authority to whom alone you can sell your property. I mean, the bilateral transactions of property should not be allowed in my view. We should be able to sell to a designated authority, and people should be able to buy houses only from that designated authority, who will make all transactions by check. So once that is done, this investment, I mean this consumption or use of black money in the housing sector will go up. The third thing is the elections or the politics area. Here again there are two things. One thing is that the political contributions to the parties are tax free. Now, there should be a study, I recommend by NIPFP or somebody, that if we do away with exemptions, with the amount which is spent on exemptions, can we fund elections by state? There can be state funding of elections. If that is there, then whatever we are spending on exempting that, by losing money by way of exemption on political contributions, and if they can match somehow. So then again, because it is stated that 90% of the corruption in India is political. So need for black money will also vanish from there. Um, Now, another thing is this public laws and public services. If public laws or interaction with public of authorities by authorities simplified, things are made online, or all the laws are reviewed, then probably the need for bribe itself will vanish and should vanish. Um, We have plethora of rules in the local authorities, in the state government, also in the central government. There is virtually no review. So many forms are to be filled up, so many requirements are there, so many certificates are required for small things. And you have to run from one place to another, even to get a birth certificate, death certificate. All these things must be simplified. And therefore, this bribe giving and bribe taking should come to an end. So, if these measures are taken, the need for having or generating black money itself will come down. The other thing is, of course, the tax rates, which ought to come down, which ought to be rationalized. But that of course will take some time, because it cannot be done in one go. So these are some of the thoughts I wanted to leave with you. Thank you so much.
Due to the paucity of time, what we'll do is we'll have a very brief question and answer session, and then we'll open the due to paucity of time, we'll have a very brief question and answer session with the panelists, and then we'll open the floors for the audience to shoot their direct their questions to online. That okay. The panelists would like to hear from you. So, thank you.
That those who are reporting and paying, they should be reporting on the income. So it kind of didn't go down very well with me. So I just wanted a clarification on that.
See, when I gave you the figure, basically when
Yes.
1 crore people are paying, not filing a return, but not paying one taxes, 2 crore people are there from 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs basically. You know, I being in the profession, I understand, I see the business is much more bigger format. People, I don't want only a return to be filed. If files a return of 2.5 lakhs is meaningless to the me and to the government.
Yes, it gets no revenue.
But I'm concerned a person who is filing a return of 5 lakhs, his income is 50 lakhs. Here the government gets a revenue basically. So here the revenue comes to the government, the black money comes out of the country, and obviously the taxes are paid to the government. So, and I know it also. You go to the Sadar Bazaar, you go to in Delhi Karol Bagh, you go to Chandni Chowk, you see all the people are having a massive sale, but none of the people actually you find will be filing a return, because if there are only 46,000 people filing a return, income is not a tax. Income of 1 crore clearly demonstrates to the extent people can actually are under reporting the income, and there's a scope basically to see the parents.
But still the tax net has to be widened, you know, in order.
That is
I agree
ideal.
2.5 lakh doesn't fetch anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For this ideal situation, it has not happened. Just to let you know, a project Insight has been launched by the government. It's a platform where the government is capturing all the information and using and ensuring compliance. This is one of the issues where the government is doing it to spread it. But in my opinion, this is actually I'm telling you, you can make bigger revenue, you can get better taxes, bigger amount of taxes, if you catch those people who are underreporting their income. Because today 8 crore people have the PAN numbers. What you will do with this? They're doing only for statutory compliance.
No, but once they come on board, then they can be assessed and monitored. When they don't even come on board, then there is no record for them.
I answered your question. There are 8 crore people with a PAN number, but only 305 are filing the returns. Yes, I'm not filing the return.
Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting. I enjoy it.
So thank you, sir, for the discussion. My question is that so when we see our income tax laws, so there are many loopholes. So if I talk about Section 80IA, it gives exemption to the companies who are running a cross-country natural gas pipeline. So which is basically only Reliance Industries are doing that. Reliance Group is doing that. Second is I see Reliance Life Sciences has went into there is umbilical cord. There is when they are into that business, so there is a service tax exemption on those businesses. And then there are other exemptions like there is no tax on agricultural income. And if I talk about poor farmers, they already have their income less than 2.5 lakhs. So those who are earning above that, I think there should be a tax on agricultural income as well. And then there are exemptions like there is no tax on charitable trust. So when the government is talking about they need to increase their revenue, their tax revenues, so instead of increasing the indirect taxes in the form of GST, if the rate is so high as much as 18%, there should be more focus on reducing all these exemptions, and automatically will get the revenue from the direct sources of income, and they will not have any regressive impact on poor. So what is your opinion on that?
In one statement, you have asked me 10 questions, but I'll never again. Let me answer your first question as regarding the exemptions are concerned. I think the roadmap of the government is very clear. There's already a sunset clause, and the exemptions are going, they are not will be extended. The government statement is clear. And if there's a sunset clause, it will end. Like a lot of exemptions are ending on March of 2017, and it will end. It will not be extended, and no new exemption is likely to be given by the government. So basically, that model is clear. Coming to your second question on charitable part, very good question. Basically, there's a massive evasion of taxes in the form of charitable part. Government is awakening it. Yesterday, 2 days back, there was a Supreme Court, something like that. And it is being monitored very, very badly. Political parties, 1800, they have an account, and they may be they were not contesting any seats, but they have those charitable accounts to legalize their money or park their money there is concerned. So charitable is being attacked. It's a very, very open source, big source for siphoning out the money and parking it there. I think government is doing something, but I think there's a much, much more scope for the government needs to do on that part is concerned. Coming to your agriculture part is concerned, I agree with you. First, taxes, agriculture cannot be taxed under the constitution. So, but there was a move actually to tax the richer farmer. I think you need a lot of political guts to do that. I wish it can be done because they are affording the best of the cars, the houses, overseas travel, the children are studying overseas. Why should they be exempted? Maybe it's a very difficult to implement it, but it's a very good, I think, but no body has got a political guts. I think Mr. Chawla can share it better with me. To implement taxing the agriculture is concerned, even if it's a rich farmer. There was a movement, couple of times, all the time it has been skirted and it has gone away. Coming to the GST part is concerned, 18%. If you see globally, the average rate of GST is 18%, but in India it is 5%, 12%, 18%, and sinful is 28%. Average will be 28%, which will be 90% of dominant part is concerned. I think this is not. See how many taxes are going. Are you aware of it? VAT goes, excise duty goes, additional custom duty goes, additional custom duty goes, all the cess goes, entertainment tax goes, anti-tax goes, octroi goes. So many taxes are going, and you're only coming into one taxes. And you know the average taxes, let me tell you a very interesting part. Because of GST of 18%, there'll be a better and bigger profit for the companies rather than paying the normal excise duty of 10%, custom duty, VAT, CST, all other taxes are concerned. I give you an example, a manufacturing company pays 27% of taxes average. Now they're going to pay 18%. All manufacturers are going to gain. A service people who are paying 15% will go up to 18%. They will lose. So a manufacturer is going to gain because of GST. So 18 in my sense is a loss of revenue. There's so many issues also. I think it's a very reasonable rate. Seeing the tax regime which we are living in the country today. I mean, this kind of thing. Yes.
Because he represents the ASSOCHAM, so he's speaking the business point of view all the time. Because he says manufacturing sector will go ahead, any manufacturer passed on the benefit to consumer ever, they will benefit and they get their more profit. The question is tax expansion is happening. No, he has not spoken about it. I spoken from the media platform everywhere else. Why did we have the capital gains tax? We have not spoken on that. Why there should be long-term capital gains tax? We are saying only 25,000 people are paying 1 crore rupees and about 25,000 companies. I want to know, I know many people where the CEO is paying more tax than the promoter, where the general manager is paying more tax than the owner. Where? How the hell you made if Mukesh Ambani has got 3,000 crore rupees cash on his hand, has he paid tax on that? Why shouldn't he be taxed? Question is, how much money is made by through capital gains in this country? Can you imagine he has chartered accountant asked you to ask him. The trading is done in this country every year, Bombay Stock Exchange. How much money is made in the long-term capital gains? Do you have any guess? Do you have any guess?
Sir, with all the apology, and I may have a dissenting, I have the permission of a dissenting, I have an opinion dissenting. Let me tell you one thing. If you make money in stock market, everybody sitting here is also making money. Let me tell you, sir. Let me answer it, sir. So let me answer the question, sir. I'm answering this question. Because these are students, ask their families. Sir, I will answer.
Everybody is making money for statement to withdraw or let me raise the hand.
Ordinary people have lost money in the...
Sir, that's not the question. Lost money is a different matter.
Let us go back
That's
to
not the
that.
question. You make money, you lose money.
Basic question, how much money promoters make every year on the stock market?
Now let me answer the question. It's not necessarily the promoters makes money. Law cannot be made for promoter and for general public separate law. The law is if you trade in, you hold shares for 1 year as a long-term capital gain tax, you are not subject to tax. That's the thing. The law is a law for everybody. It's not only the promoter doesn't make trade, but there are lakhs of crores of people who also trade, a salaried owner, a businessman, a self-employed, everybody does it. I do it.
3.5 billion people are in retail trading in the country of 129 million.
What is
Mr. Chawla, what Mr. Chawla is saying that this provision is regressive.
I'm asking
Regressive.
I tell you.
Should income from my aunt teaching,
No.
I should be paying tax. If income from stock market, stock brokers, that is also income.
I'll answer
Why
this.
shouldn't it be taxed?
I tell you, sir. I tell you what. It's not that everything, there's so many deductions, exemptions, like she said, that girl said ATI exemptions. This is for, I'm not diverting. Sir, I'm not diverting it. Sir, hear me holistically. Sir, hear me. Okay, yes, my view, sir. Okay, I believe this is a, no, that's not, there cannot be right or wrong. There cannot be yes or no, there has to be catered to it. I cannot say such a bigger decision, yes, no.
But I do stock market manipulation, I'm not.
No, sir, first of all, let's tell you thing. The law is saying, yes, what is needed, a better redemption of the law. The law is when you're making a lot of money, not paying taxes, which may happen in this budget, where you have a limit of 1 year, it's likely may become 2 years. This is the way you need to check it, but you cannot tax it something which is exempted. You say I'm taxable from next day. It doesn't happen like that. What can happen is people who are misusing it, people who are making the money, hold it, who are speculators, extend the period. This government, and Mr. Modi said it, and then this is distracted by Mr. Arun Jaitley the next day, but this is under the consideration, this is under recommendation before the government to increase the limit by 1 year, 2 years. But to make them pay taxes, so tomorrow it can happen in house property. You have an exemption in house property. You say, I'm going to tax them. It doesn't work like that.
If I sell my house, I'm taxed?
No, sir, not all the time. 80% time you're not taxed, sir.
On the inflation?
No, sir, no, sir. You get it, sir, you get inflation, you buy next house, you don't pay taxes, you are too out.
If I don't buy,
He's too loud.
Let us go back, okay, because most of the people are not
Let me tell you, for house property,
speaking here, let me speak. If I sell my wife's jewelry, I have to pay tax.
Sir, not necessarily. You get the indexation, sir.
No, indexation. Why not?
Indexation is 4 times.
Let-
921 is 5 times.
You are not
500 times.
letting me complete my question even. Obviously, you don't have enough. I'm saying I'm completing my sentence that if I sell my wife's jewelry after indexation, I still pay money. Why not the same principle be applied to stock market? Where I'm asking one question, there are promoters in this country, I don't know what to name. There are 30 people in this country who have made about 30,000 crore rupees from the stock selling their own promoter shares in the last 10 years. Have they paid money? They should have paid money or not? Full stop.
I answer this question. As regarding jewelry is concerned,
I'm asking the last
I made a note. As regarding jewelry is concerned, it's interesting, sir, it's interactive. As regarding jewelry is concerned, you get the indexation. If you bought a jewelry in 81, basically you get 5 times indexation of it. You obviously get an exemption like this. If you have a house property, you only invest the next property, the capital gain, it is not taxable. If I sell a land, I buy a house, it's not taxable. If I sell a land, I buy 2 houses, if I can keep it, it's not taxable. As regarding capital gain part is concerned, let me tell you one thing. What he is trying to say is very right, which has been misused blatantly by few people. There have been promoters, there have been historical cases where it is used, misused. And any scheme which gives you incentive, there are good people, there are bad people, there are opportunists who take advantage of it. And a promoter like this took advantage of it. Now, the law cannot be only for promoter. The law can be capital gain is taxable or not taxable. So I don't think I'm the right person to say it's taxable or not. Yes, government is alive with the problem, and that's the reason government is looking forward to increase the limit of a long-term gain from 1 year to 2 years.
Like unlisted shares. As in the case of
Unlisted shares, maybe 2 to 3 years. Yes.
On widening the tax rate, tax base, I only want to say that agriculture sector, of course, a very wide point which gives 50% of the GDP. There was a 50% of the GDP or 45% of the GDP.
agriculture sector is giving routine 18% of the GDP now.
Less than
18%. How much tax you charge from there?
Including LIC.
Service sector is producing 55% of the GDP. How much tax it paying? Let him answer.
I have a figure with me, sir. I have a figure.
They want everybody to tax so that the corporate can benefit.
No, that's not true.
There was a K. Raj committee which suggested
18% of agriculture will below. How much you tax here?
No,
55% is paying only 17% of the direct tax.
Chawla, the K. Raj committee had suggested tax in agriculture sector in the form of agriculture holding tax. That is, you exempt holding, say up to 10 hectares or something, or 10 acres, and beyond that you have a graduated tax. So you are not taxing agriculture, you are taxing agriculture holding tax, which will be progressive in nature. The other area is that about 15% of the geographical area is out of the income tax net. You know, the north, east, the J&K and all that where money went by, demonetized money went by helicopters and things like that. So there should be some thought about that also, how long this kind of exemptions can go on. And why not bring the whole of India under the tax net? After all, any income which is earned from here or there, by geographically or by whatever persons or whatever means, has to pay tax. So then only the tax base will increase. Yeah, please, your question.
We have 5 more minutes, sir.
Last 2 questions, sir. We're just running short of time. Last 2 questions.
Yes.
Sir, one question.
Good evening, sir. Before asking my question, I just thank IIM for giving a wonderful debate.
Be louder, please.
Sir, first of all, I want to say be thankful to IIM for giving a wonderful.
Question, we are running against time, please.
Okay, sir, it's just general question. You are debating and so much, you are arguing with the matter so much of budget and all. I just want to ask one question. If you are all ready for for a strike against this budget, for this bad budget? Are you ready for the hunger strike for this? We are telling all in India, Indian people are very well in planning, but not in executing. I just asking that your opinion. Are you ready for a strike for against this bad budget?
Any other question right now, please? Be more, yes.
Good evening, sir. My question is for Bhanumurthy, sir. So, like you said that you are advocating a range target in place of a number target, and you talked about the NKSing committee also. But the fears that are being expressed are, if we are having a flexibility in the range target, then we might end up targeting the upper ceiling. So, how do we bring in the required attitudinal behavior changes for that, and what are the other benefits if we have a range target for this?
On a lighter way, when did we achieve the target? So this act is there since 2003. Did we ever achieve the target of fiscal numbers? No. So the point I'm trying to say is that the 3.5% was estimated in 2012-13, where it has not taken even the anticipated shocks on the fiscal policy. I can give you one example. The numbers 3.5 doesn't even take the 7th pay commission impact. Okay. So, in this kind of situation, isn't it too much for the central government or the government of the day to stick to the 3.5% fixed 5 years back? So that's why I'm trying to say, now, on the other hand, on the monetary policy, we have given so much of flexibility on the inflation target. That's why it's called flexible inflation target, right? There is almost 4 percentage points different from the lower bound to upper bound. But when it comes to the fiscal policy, there is no flexibility, right? So that's one of the reasons why I was arguing that shocks are basically captured in revenue deficit. Okay? And the fiscal deficit, as I told you, the difference public capital expenditure. So what is happening now? The shock is being absorbed by the capital expenditure. Okay, if the revenue deficit goes up because you have to achieve 3.5%, you are squeezing the capital expenditure. Right? So what I am trying to argue is that you allow the revenue deficit to be flexible, ring fence the capital expenditure target. Then you will have a higher growth. Okay? There is not much of degrees of freedom. If you don't allow that, you have to target lower GDP growth. Okay? So these are all consistent. The revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, GDP numbers, inflation, and the public debt, they are all consistent numbers. If I tell you, almost 24 equations have been simultaneously simulated to get this 3.5%. Okay, it's not a partial equilibrium, it's a general equilibrium kind of numbers.
Thank you. Sir, I have one more question for Gupta sir. Sir, throughout the year we have been talking about bringing in the structural reforms into agriculture sector through Har Khet Ko Pani, insurance scheme and all those things. But when it comes to finally allocating the funds to the budgetary process, the numbers are very abysmal. So where do you see the problem? Is it the bureaucratic inertia or is it the political will that is
This question is for who?
It is for the Gupta sir because he has experience of working with planning.
Agriculture is a state subject. Okay. So most of the investment in agriculture has to be done through the state. The central budget invests essentially in agriculture research, in crop insurance subsidies and things like that. Otherwise, so most of the expenditure has to be done by the state government. And of course, land is a private resource, so individuals are also to invest in agriculture.
Yeah, last question, I think so. Last
Sir, this year the railway budget is being dispensed with so that the Indian Railways is not required to pay any kind of dividend on the budgetary support it gets from the government. And the government has gone on to say that this will save about 10,000 crore rupees for the state Indian Railways. But at the same time, it is absolutely silent on the 45,000 crore worth pension liabilities of the Indian Railways. So don't you think the government is just trying to banish this entire policy document into anonymity, into just one of the annexes of the union budget through some kind of bureaucratic sleight of hand?
The main argument for the railways was that they are not left with adequate resources for maintenance and capital formation. And the central government doesn't give them adequate share out of their own budget. Whereas they demand dividend from them on the investment done by the central government in the railways from the very beginning. So once both are merged, that distinction goes. Now, like every other ministry, every other sector, they will have to fight with the finance ministry only for requirement of investment. The question of dividend and all now is not relevant because it will there will be no entry there for dividend. It's all their revenues. All revenues will be merged as consolidated fund.
Other thing, our railway budget is merged because there can't be people are opening railway lines to their own station. That is one of the joke going around because every railway minister would have railway line going to his state all the time and new rail things going all the time. And now it will directly have to suffer for increasing the fares and what's not, nobody else.
Thank you everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. IIT would like to thank the panelists and the audience for being such a wonderful, for having such a wonderful discussion. And we would like to invite Professor Rao onto the stage to present the panelists with some mementos. Mr. Prabhu Chawla. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And Mr. H.N. Gupta. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.